Commissioner
Morning,
General.
Chair.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
And good morning. Good morning. Do we have the DNA board here, Nicolette? Information. Civilian Secretariat, are you here? Yes.
Good morning, Chair. We are in the platform.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, stemming from the previous committee meeting, we have had several follow-up questions and the follow-up engagements. Good morning again. Good morning again. Could you please mute your mics? The engagement with the portfolio committee follow-ups will be attended to today. The first one would be the community police forums. The second one is on the community police forums. It is the legislative frameworks. Here you have given us a long presentation on community police forums, but you do not address on the community police forums. You do not address the questions which have been asked by the committee. The Central Firearm Registry, the Firearm Control System and Accommodation, again, you do not address the questions which have been posed by the committee. On the Central Firearm Registry, we asked how many firearms are illegal in the country. When you confiscate firearms and you say they are illegal firearms, what record do you have that indeed these are illegal firearms if you do not have a Central Firearm Registry? I have consistently told you we receive complaints from the firearm industry. I have received again a compendium about over 100 letters from Mr. Martin Hood. Advocate, I don't know how to address you, is Mr. Captain Wood here? Is he ready with his presentation, Nicolette?
Yes, Chairperson. Advocate Hood is on the platform and we have received his presentation.
Thank you very much. You've received Advocate Wood's presentation. He's part of those who send me over 100 love letters. Advocate, when do you find time to write me all these love letters? You'll answer when you do your presentation. On the FDA litigation, there I want to know if the DNA samples that have not been handed over by FDA, if those DNA samples can be used in court. Have we had a corruption in the chain of evidence? And if there was a breakdown in the chain of evidence, would those DNA samples be corrupted? If a DNA sample is corrupted, it will not be able to stand the test of time in any court case or any court of law or case against the government. How do you prove that your DNA samples are correct and that in fact, cases, outcomes of cases, judgments will not be under scrutiny because the DNA samples have been corrupted? That's my simple question. I'm not worried about your long legal fights with FDA. Those legal fights, you can have your legal battles. What would the implications be for the criminal justice system while you remain in court? So those are the three legacy issues that we are dealing with. Honorable members and committee members, before we start with the introductory remarks, proper introductory remarks by the chairperson, could I get an indication from Babawa if we have a quorum? Thanks. Babawa, I can't hear you.
Chair is Tele. Can you hear me?
Yes, Minister, I can hear you. I welcome
I'm
you
Vuyo.
again. Yes, Minister. I was told by my sweetie pie, you, Minister, if it's not for Vuyo, you will be in big trouble.
I'm Vuyo today, but even on this one, I hear one word in your sentence and you disappeared and I get late. I seems to be having a problem, but I'm trying to follow.
Yes, Honorable Minister, we indicated to the committee that you have network problems. As I said, without Vuyo, Minister, you'll be in big trouble in this committee. You must really thank Vuyo. She's a marvelous asset to your office. And I'd really like to commend her. I would like to commend her. So she is always indicating if there are problems. She communicated with me this morning.
Recording stopped.
That you have problems. She also indicated to me that you have a meeting with the president. I told members that I have allowed you to excuse yourself. Honorable Minister, you will indicate when you have to leave. Is that in order, Minister? You will be. Your name has been recorded as Vuyo today, Minister. It will be recorded in the records that you are Vuyo. Do you accept that, Minister?
Thanks.
So, please, honorable members, we received that apology. Could I now get an indication if we have a quorum? Babawa? Where is Babawa? Nicolette, do we have a quorum? I can't wait for Babawa. Do I have a problem, colleagues?
Yes, I think Nicolette is having a problem with the network, Chairperson.
Is it the chair? I'm on a... Is it my network?
No, Chair, you are loud and clear, Chair.
We can
Alright,
hear you.
thank you. I'm on a mobile hotspot, so I have load shedding. So please, if you cannot hear me, please indicate to the chair, or if I'm kicked out, then Honorable Whip, could you please assist? I have load shedding almost for the entire duration of this meeting. Honorable members are using the data, and this becomes quite an expensive exercise because we seem to need to use our data when we can't have any access to our gadgets.
Recording in progress.
Could I now, Nicolette Obabawa, could you please confirm whether we have a quorum? I cannot continue the meeting without a quorum.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, we do have a quorum.
Babawa, your audio is very faint.
She says you do have a quorum, Chair.
Yes, I heard her, but her audio is very faint and she has to do the next item, which is the agenda and the adoption of the minutes. Babawa, can you hear now? All right. Can we have the agenda? You can go to item 4, Babawa. Adoption of the minutes, the presentation of the SEPs and the Civilian Secretariat from the hearing last week, the consideration of the DPCI annual performance plan and budget, and then the briefing by Mr. Wood on the challenges experienced with the Central Firearm Registry and firearm licensing in general. Number 4, 6.4, the consideration of the PSIRA annual performance plan and the budget for 2023. I have a proposal for the adoption of the agenda, please?
Shaky Mom moves.
Shaky Mom moves. Do I have a seconder?
Second,
Koza
Chairperson.
second.
There's a number of seconders. I've heard Koza the loudest. Koza seconds. We then look at the minutes. I'm looking at the minutes of the 19th of April. Members, could you please mute your mics? Shaky Mom. Shaky Mom, can you mute your mic, please? Thank you very much. Could we look now attend to the minutes? Babalwa, could I have the minutes, please? Thank you. Next. Next page. Honorable members, you've received the minutes. You will indicate if you have any concerns or corrections with the names. A National Commissioner, there's your delegation. Do you have any correction? Wait. Do you have any correction with the names? Next, page 3. Any correction with the names? Do we send the minutes to the National Commissioner's office? Nicolette? Babawa?
Chairperson, good morning. No, we do not.
Could you please send the minutes? They are part of the meeting, so they have to receive the minutes. They do not adopt minutes, but they're part of the meeting, so they have to receive the minutes. They also have the right to correct the minutes. When we finish with these minutes, it's a record of Parliament. And whatever we say, it will be held against them or with them. Next page, please. Next page. Any corrections? Closing remarks? This is a record of Parliament. SAPS, the Civilian Secretariat, we asked you to report the committee to the committee on the outstanding matters. Honorable members, these outstanding matters will be part of a legacy report. Now, I'm not trying to be funny, but we are not going to pass your budget if you do not respond to our questions. Could I repeat? We are not going to pass your budget. And we'll go to the speaker, we'll go to the chief whip, we'll go to the house chair with the national commissioner, minister, whoever, and explain why the committee will not pass the budget. These reports are 5 years old. There are certain decisions the committee took 5 years ago. Unless the committee is happy with the explanations you have given us, we will not pass your budget. I repeat, we will not pass your budget. So I will not come to pass your budget. As the chair, we will not have an item to approve your budget. We have had 5 years where SAPS, Civilian Secretariat, and a number of entities do not respond to the questions of members. This is a budget hearing. I explained to you, we are busy with the legacy report. All the outstanding matters that you have not responded to, can you please respond to it adequately? We gave you a second chance on the 19th of April. You have sufficient time to respond to the committee. We have requested that you provide us with comprehensive responses. And we gave you sufficient time. I repeat, the chairperson is giving sufficient time, if you read that last sentence, to the members, minister, and national commissioner, so that when the committee is compiling its report, the parties can have common and collective, we can have a common and collective report that will be presented to Parliament. If you do not read the minutes, it is your problem, because this is a record of the meeting. I repeat, the chairperson and the members will be given another opportunity to interrogate the department. We are doing so now. Honorable members, you received the responses. 3 critical areas I identified. Number 1, delay of bills. Now I'm going to look at how this has impacted on the Civilian Secretariat and the community police forums. That community police forums have been part of the President's input to Parliament in the State of the Nation address and responses to Parliament. Community police forums, I'm going to get to that, and the delay of bills. And I'm going to repeat this. You will not have your budget until you have responded to this. The second one is, as we had indicated to you, the Central Firearm Registry. We are not going to pass your budget and accept that you are waiting for public works. As you are responsible for illegal firearms in the country, if you do not have a Central Firearm Registry in the country, does it mean, we asked, this committee asked you, how many firearms in our country happen to be illegal because of the failures of the Central Firearm Registry? 70702080 will be offloaded if you do not identify yourself correctly. 70702080. If we do not get an appropriate response to the Central Firearm Registry, I do not want to hear about CETA. 5 years, this committee told SAPS 5 years ago that you have to take those functions from your counterparts, and you then have to provide us with a Central Firearm Registry. We have failed. I am not going to indicate the failure of the committee. Look, if this is the committee's failure, we'll indicate it. If this is the failure of the minister and the national commissioner, then we have to take responsibility. But as a committee, we cannot blame another minister. We cannot blame another department. What have you done to address the Central Firearm Registry? You were supposed to go. We had committed that we would have a digital system for the Central Firearm Registry. You came to this committee and indicated that there was a tender put out by CETA. I'm not interested in tenders, and I'm not interested in who is awarded the tender. The fact remains we do not have a Central Firearm Registry. The committee will visit your current, whatever you call a Central Firearm Registry now. We will visit that in the middle of May. Not this weekend, the following weekend, we will pay a visit to whatever you call your Central Firearm Registry. So I'm not going to take your presentation. I want responses. That's your second matter, area of concern. Your third area of concern, all I would like to know, Honorable Minister, if our cases in court, I do not care what you're doing, you can continue your court cases with FDA. I'm concerned if the DNA samples that you use in court cases, if those DNA samples have not been compromised, if the chain of evidence has been compromised, you have to indicate it. Whether your DNA board is going to indicate it or not, I would simply like to know in all our cases that we have, are our DNA samples above board? You have come to address us on the DNA backlog. I would like to know if those DNA samples are going to be legitimate. If the chain of evidence has been compromised, do we have DNA samples, or would we have a challenge in our criminal justice system? If we are going to have a challenge in the criminal justice system, I would put on record that this committee addressed the matter of the you responded on the backlog. However, indicate to us if this DNA samples of yours will be above board and stand the scrutiny of any court of law, that we will not have any legal challenges and that we will not be compromised. If I can have the responses on those three matters, I could write the legacy report. The first draft of the legacy report is correct, is there. There's also other outstanding matters on the DPCI besides the DPCI judge, but the DPCI will have the right to do a presentation, and I will raise those outstanding matters. On the matters of the DPCI, there are outstanding matters since 2016, which was started with Honorable Ndleko. 2016, 2018, 2018, we are now in 2023. These are legacy matters which I'm not going to leave in the legacy report. I'm back now focusing on the CPFs. We are starting with the CPFs. I'm not going to take the presentation because it doesn't respond to my questions and the questions of the committee members. So, Honorable Minister, your presentation does not respond to this committee's questions. National Commissioner, your responses did not cover or adequately respond to the questions of the committee. If you do not respond on the CPFs, we are not going to pass your budget. The CPFs have been mentioned in the interim constitution and in the final constitution. They have been approved the interim constitution and the final constitution. The final constitution happens to be 29 years old. It is the SAPS Act, which says that CPFs, members of CPFs, are volunteers and that they cannot be paid. Last night I watched this program of JJ Tabani very, very carefully. I went back to the Constitution and I went back to the SAPS Act. Last week I told you that you failed to amend the SAPS Act for 29 years. So for 29 years, the CPFs could not be funded because the SAPS Act says they are volunteers. This means it's not the Constitution, it's the SAPS Act. We have requested the SAPS Act amendment bill 5 years ago. The resources for CPFs cannot be regulated because it's not in the Act. Two very interesting scenarios have developed. The latest scenario is where Gauteng province has appointed wardens. Those wardens are going to receive salaries. Those wardens will have drones. They have uniforms. They are not appointed under the SAPS Act. We are having challenges which we have created as a SAPS. You have created these challenges as a civilian secretariat, national commissioner. We now have to express ourselves on this matter. The Western Cape, just like Gauteng, was extremely, I think they understood, they were extremely advanced in how they responded to our weaknesses. They created their neighborhood watches. Now, I was always under the impression that the Western Cape government favored neighborhood watches and that they did not want CPFs to operate. And they gave neighborhood watches a budget, but they did not give CPFs a budget. Yesterday, Western Cape agrees that they were giving those neighborhood watches 10,000 Rand a month. They are given equipment, they are assisted. I have a recording, I've requested the formal recording of this. Decisions, we need a meeting with all MECs just to discuss the matters of CPFs. Two, these CPFs have been appointed according to different acts. They are not Metro Police. Their roles, have they been clarified? The neighborhood watchers and the wardens, have their roles been clarified? If they are not appointed under the SAPS Act, how do they function? What legal locus standi do they have? The Criminal Procedures Act allows for certain community participation. Have they been approved by the Minister of Justice? At one stage, you said that these CPFs must be moved to community safety. This has created imbalances because we first had only the Western Cape. They gave these CPFs another name. They gave them the name of neighborhood watches so they don't break the law. And they've established these neighborhood watches under the Criminal Procedure Act. Now we have a second province, Gauteng, They've appointed wardens. Are these wardens community safety forums, community participation? I need an explanation. Before I do, because this is a follow-up matter, I'll allow the members to raise their hands. In your presentation, you are suggesting an allocation to the civilian secretariat for the CPFs. This is what you are proposing. Honorable Minister and Civilian Secretary, Secretary, if you are not going to provide sufficient funding, you cannot provide it via the SAPS Act. How are you going to provide resources for the CPFs? If you cannot answer the question of CPFs, I repeat, I'm not going to schedule a meeting to pass your budget, and we'll all go to the Speaker and the Minister of Finance to explain why we have not passed the budget. This matter of CPFs have been on our agenda, I repeat, for 5 years. I want to get to the section where you speak on your resource allocation, which has actually been totally inadequate and actually just anything else. The SAPS presentation provides us with estimated resource requirements. You estimate resource requirements that will be given to CPFs. But again, it is not costed. SAPS Minister, your National Commissioner and your Accounting Officer have the right to transfer money from the SAPS budget to the Civilian Secretariat for community participation. If you again do not budget for community participation, whether you cannot call them CPFs, because in the SAPS amendment bill it says, or act in the act, not in the bill, it says that they cannot be resourced. How are you going to support communities? In my mind, SAPS's attitude towards the CPFs illustrates your attitude towards community participation. I'll give you the minutes of our engagement with CPFs in the Eastern Cape. You have received those minutes. So on the consideration of CPFs, I'm going to get back to you. We'll send you the interim constitution, the SAPS Act, the SAPS Amendment Bill, your clauses. I went to read your SAPS Amendment Bill again, and I now propose that firstly, I take the inputs from the members, and then I will take the input from the commissioner. It's firstly the director of Civilian Secretariat, and then the minister. Honorable members, I'll take your inputs on the CPFs now. You may raise your hands. Honorable Whitfield, before you raise your hand, do I have a proposal for the adoption of the minutes?
I move for the adoption, Chairperson Majosi.
Majosi moves for the adoption. Do I have a second?
Second, Chair Marekwa.
Marekwa seconds. Honorable Whitfield, your hand is noted. You may come in now.
Thank you very much.
Whitfield, yes, I just see your hand. The others, you can raise your hand if you wish to participate on the matter of CPFs. Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would just add to the discussion to say that CPFs, it's not clear exactly what it means to be fully established. We see 100% of CPS across provinces established. But when you talk to members of CPFs, the South African Police Service, and this is now setting aside resourcing. The South African Police Service in places like Queenstown, for example, simply don't even attend CPF meetings. They don't engage with CPFs, and they have no relationship with them. Now, that cannot be considered a legitimate CPF structure, where the South African Police Service themselves, in a place like Queenstown, is not cooperating with the community. So I think that the issue, Chairperson, goes far beyond resourcing and goes really to the heart of partnership policing, and whether the South African Police Service is indeed committed to partnership policing together with communities to ensure that we can fulfill the objectives set out in the SAPS Act. And I want to raise this as a very, very particular concern over and above the resourcing. The second issue, Chair, is that resourcing is simply not taking place. In some provinces like the Eastern Cape, it's not exactly clear what the Department of Community Safety actually does. They don't provide gazebos or marketing material to create awareness for CPFs. They don't provide sufficient vests for visibility for CPF members. And there doesn't seem to be any relationship between the Department of Community Safety and the actual CPFs. So, Chairperson, I hear the concern around resourcing. I'm not sure that stipends in and of themselves are going to fix the problem, but inadequate resourcing broadly is not going to also attend to the actual cause of the problem, which is, in my view, a lack of commitment to partnership policing, which is the ethos behind CPFs, neighborhood watches, and others. Proper collaboration from the South African Police Service and the Department of Community Safety and our communities is absolutely essential. That is the root cause of the problem. And throwing money at the problem is not going to fix it. There needs to be an overhaul of the culture that we have within our policing environment and our attitude towards partnership policing. Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable Whitfield, you are absolutely correct. I am in no way have I suggested that they should only be paid stipends. The resources that we are looking at should be clearly defined. As you said, whenever we've engaged communities, they have complained about the gazebos, the vests, the relationships which they have with SAPS. The matter of community safety and the relationships between the SAPS at the national level and community safety departments, it's a broad umbrella of what is happening with those CPFs. And if you look at the presentation, it does not respond to what we have asked. If we're going to pass this budget without defining the clear role for this partnership, we'll be transferring this to the next committee, and we would not be able, I certainly would not be able to accept transferring the matter or ignoring the fact that we haven't clarified the matter of CPFs. Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think I follow on what you have said as the chair and also Honorable Whitfield. We are not doing justice to the CPFs, and they've come and said everything that it is their challenge, and seemingly all those challenges have not been addressed. So I think we must get a response from the police on what is it that it's supposed to happen now. Because honestly, it's not about the finance situation. Even in the communities, how do we expect them to fight crime when they do not even have resources themselves? And those are pure people who want to fight and combat crime. But now, with the limitation of resources that they have, it becomes a huge problem. Because imagine now with all the what Gauteng is doing, and maybe other provinces will follow as well. We are demoralizing them as CPFs, because now if there are other people who are going to benefit, get resources and be able to combat crime, but they've been here for years and they've not received any attention. I think as a committee as well, it will be our failure. We owe them that we must address these issues that they have raised of resources. And Chairperson, I think the police owes us that much. And you are correct, Chairperson. I mean, we've been raising the issue of the Act since I was here, and nothing is happening. And then it becomes a huge problem as this committee, that now we must always pass these budgets. We must always that there are challenges that are brought to us daily by the CPFs, that they want to fight crime, but now they've got a limitation of how they should do that. So I think we deserve a response that will say what is going to happen now with the CPFs. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Tabloch.
Chairperson, thank you. And good morning to everybody. Chairperson, I am well covered to a certain extent by yourself and the honorable two members that spoke before me. Chairperson, you know, when I read through this presentation that we receive about the CPFs, you know, if you are not aware what is happening on the ground, you will believe that everything is fine. Now, we know that nothing is fine as far as this is concerned. Chairperson, I made a very strong statement in the previous meeting saying that my concern is that the Secretariat, I don't really believe that they understand their function. That is the first thing that I want to say. Secondly, Chairperson, I think the police are really at a crossroad at this very moment. We have, and I personally have advocated all along that the police needs to be transformed. They need to change their policing style. But at the moment, what we are seeing is a very, very clumsy organization that is stumbling along. And really, what we don't see policing, you know, the real policing that we want to see. You know, partnership policing is non-existent at the moment, Chairperson. And I really don't, I believe, and I agree with you, that something will have to be done. We cannot just approve budgets. We cannot approve this bulk truckloads of money, and we don't get proper policing. Chairperson, I'll stop with that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tabloch. Honorable Siabi. Honorable Whip, your hand is up.
Thank you, Chair. And greetings to all who are on the platform. Greetings to the Minister, Deputy Minister, the National Commissioner and your team, General Libya and his team, and honorable members. I think colleagues have covered me in the main. I just wanted to follow up on your suggestion that as part of contributing towards the resolution of this issue of resourcing CPFs, we have that meeting with the MECs as you suggested. I just wanted to second that we have that meeting with provincial MECs so that we understand the role, how can they play a role in assisting with the funding or resourcing of CPFs because they are dealing with the community safety in their provinces. So that provinces together with the national commissioner together with the provincial departments are able to come together and see how far can they go in resourcing CPFs. Because yes, I agree. If we are not careful with what happened in Gauteng and Western Cape, creating what I would call parallel structures to CPFs, it will really create a problem. And they're creating those structures, as I'm told, using another legislation from another sector, not using legislation that is within the police service. So if we're able to have that meeting and together share ideas and see how far can we go in terms of resourcing the CPFs. And I agree that by resourcing, we're not necessarily referring only to stipend, we're referring to other tools of trade to make sure that they are able to do their work. And I would suggest, Chair, as I support your suggestion, that be treated as a matter of agency so that we are able to move forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Whip. Honourable Shembeni. Honourable Shembeni.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Honorable Minister, the National Commissioner, and all protocol observed. Chairperson, I want to concur firstly with the whip. The issue of yes, we're speaking about CPFs and the like. But now, what has transpired now in Gauteng, bringing the so-called the wardens and the like, now that takes us back to Western Cape, when Western Cape demanded that they wanted to have their own police service. And then it was a no. But now looking at what is happening now, all these provinces are going to have what is Gauteng having now. These are parallel forces to the SAPS. That is going to cause a problem for us if we keep quiet and look at this thing and say it is correct. I don't think that it is correct. Now, when we talk about the CPFs, the stipends and the like, now, it will also go to looking at what other people are getting. Is SAPS going to manage to give CPFs the 10,000 and above? And when you look at that amount of money and go back to the constables, our SAPS constables, how much are they getting? Now, this is going to create a lot of problems for the country itself. And we are also going to experience those shootings that we once experienced in the Western Cape. Because
my apologies, Honourable Shembeni. They were not receiving 10,000 rand a month as a stipend or income. The entire CPF for their operation, no, in Western Cape, it's the neighborhood watch. So they received 10,000 rand as a budget for the neighborhood watch. So please correct that understanding is that they're not receiving that as a stipend or an allocation. But the Premier of Gauteng indicated that those marshals would receive a stipend. So I'm just correcting you on that. Director. My apologies for interrupting you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes. What actually now I'm trying to say is that if we do have provinces that need some extra members or law enforcement agencies like the SAPS as we have, why are they not contributing to the SAPS and say, we are giving you the 450 million to add to what you are having when you are taking in or you are enlisting your new constables, add more so that we can get more from what you are going to allocate to us. I think that was going to be better so that we have a single force in South Africa as the SAPS. Now, what I'm saying, what if Gauteng gave that money to the SAPS as a department to say, we are assisting you here. We would ask that if you allocate from the 10,000, you will be allocating 1,000 members to Gauteng. Can you add another 500? That is it's my view, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Honorable Groenewald, honorable members, we have 5 more minutes on this item, in which I will also give to the National Commissioner, I said the Director, National Commissioner, and the Minister. Honorable Groenewald, you'll be the last one.
Morning, Chair. Thank you very much, and everybody on the platform. While we are referring now to the Gauteng situation, Chairperson, I would just ask if the Commissioner now respond. I want to know in what manner are they armed, because Lesofie, the Premier, Mr. Lesofie, said they are armed. In which way are they armed? Because if you say they are armed, it creates the impression that they have firearms. And do they comply to legislation to have such firearms? Because I foresee that if they're not properly trained, there's going to be huge problems in this aspect. So if I can just get clarity on that, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Honorable Marekwa, I would like to note your hand, even though I said Honorable Groenewald was the last. Honorable Marekwa.
No, thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to the Minister, the DM, the Commissioner, and all members on the platform and all participants. Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is very brief. As much as we appreciate maybe the efforts, particularly on Gauteng, the Premier trying to deal with the issue of crime that is rampant in the communities. But what one would like to know from my side, Chairperson, is that I hear my colleagues have mentioned the issue of stipend and all the other benefits and so on, the firearm, whether they are properly trained or whatsoever. My question maybe to the police is to say, what arrangements or engagements were in place before the establishment of the wardens in Gauteng? And they have been briefed as the subs in terms of the long-term plan that Gauteng province is having with these wardens being there? Because for now, we know that we are all trying to curb crime and deal with it, but we come up with solutions that might be short term. In the long term, what is going to happen? Because experience has taught us, we remember back then when we had the kids constables who came in to the SAPS to be part of the policing back in the 80s, early 90s. Later, it was an issue of forcing and trying to integrate them into the police, which took time and a lot of effort and challenges, and them not being happy, raising concerns and issues that they are not being taken care of. So I want to know what long-term plan, what is a long-term plan in place in making sure that this initiative in Gauteng is going to be sustainable in the long run. That will be my input, Chairperson. Thank you so much.
Honorable Merekwa, I think you have summarized it very well. And you have actually just articulated the crux of the matter as well. All the members, we share your concerns. And let it be stated that there hasn't been a single political party that has not participated in this debate. The only one that has been silent is Honorable Shekima. Reverend Meshu is on compassionate leave. So my proposal before you come in, and you can just agree or disagree with the proposals when you do respond. One, I'm proposing that the minister meets with the MECs, the national commissioners, and the heads of community safety in the provinces. That you relook at the budget that you're allocating to the civilian secretariat for community safety, not for CPFs, not for stipends, but for community safety. When you relook at the reallocation of this budget, the reallocation will then stipulate what that budget is meant for. We're requesting that the minister please meets with his counterparts. You will be given a time frame for the meeting with your counterparts, because once you have met with your counterparts, you will be called to the committee with the MECs and the HODs of community safety. So the committee will give you 1 week. If that is insufficient time, you'll indicate if you need more than 1 week. You'll have a week in which you meet with those MECs and their HODs. If you need more than 1 week, it just has to happen before we approve the budget. The budget will not be approved if you do not allocate money to the civilian secretariat for community safety. The budget you have allocated to community safety, that budget you allocated to the civilian secretariat must be ring-fenced for community safety. How you're going to spend it, you'll have to come and report to us. When you do respond, Secretariat, could you indicate how much time you need? And then the same with the NESCOM and the minister. Thank you very much. Mr. Amaru.
Good morning, Chair. Starting with the last issue, I think it's difficult for me to say the exact time, but I think if we're given 2 weeks for us to have the meeting and also to do the proper calculations and come back to the committee, might assist.
Nicolette, would I be able to give them 2 weeks?
Chair, yes, that's fine.
All right, agreed upon. You have 2 weeks. Nicolette will write them their letters, inviting everyone to the meeting, and we'll also ask, Babawa, could you ask for a special application to the House Chair and the Chief Whip for an additional sitting? Babawa, could you prepare the application for a sitting outside of the program?
I'll do so, sir.
Thank you. National Commissioner, you have been granted 2 weeks. You may come in now, National Commissioner.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, the Minister of Police General Kele, the PM. Thanks, Chairperson. We will meet as directed. In 2 weeks, I think will be sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you very much, National Commissioner. Honorable Minister, General Minister, are you still there? I see your name is here now.
I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. The opportunity is yours to conclude, Minister.
Chair, I'm not very sure about the timelines and the issue, the essential issue. We might have to touch the treasurer share if we're going to be transferring funds and all that kind of thing. I think we might have to touch treasurer on the matter, but also we will try to invite the MSCs, and you must remember that MSCs are more controlled on the premier level. They might be available in particular time. For instance, min-max are planned for a very long time, so they'll put time with a full understanding. If this is an emergency meeting, not a min-max, we might not guarantee of getting them. So 2 weeks might be also influenced by the preparations of the meeting and the invitation of them in to have the meeting. 2 weeks we can put it as a baseline, but if it happens that we don't succeed, we might report back what effort we have put for that meeting to happen. We take it as a baseline, but guaranteeing that it would have happened after 2 weeks, it cannot be, because we don't have a full control over calling MSCs. But immediate contact with the National Treasurer that this is suggested and we hear from them can help us. But I can say, Chairperson, we have requested, it might not be here, some manager from Treasurer to increase the capacity in terms of internships and all those kind of in the police. And the Treasurer has said no, there is no money, and money must do everything that has been allocated to. So I'll be very skeptical to go the rearranging of finances without touching Treasury. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you are absolutely correct. What the committee is saying, that you have to go back to Treasury and Minister of Finance. They must be brought in. Because if we want the allocation to SAPS, we're not saying we want an additional allocation, but you must find money within the SAPS allocation to reallocate that money to the Civilian Secretariat and ring fence it for community safety, not for CPFs. So what we're basically saying is that the Civilian Secretariat budget is inadequate. So the Civilian Secretariat budget is inadequate. We are asking for more money for the Civilian Secretariat. And that money must come from your other programs. So you are absolutely correct, Minister. You have to consult with the Minister of Treasury and the Minister of Finance. We are then giving you 2 weeks. The reallocation of the budget, how you spend it later, could then the details of how you spend it later, that you can consult and include your provincial counterparts in that. What we need now, the basic request of this committee is the reallocation of funds from your program of SAPS to your program of the Civilian Secretariat. And the committee will be liaising with you and the National Commissioner on how this will be done. But certainly, the Minister of Treasury, your Treasury, our Treasury, and the Minister of Finance must be brought in. The Chair will also interact with the different parliamentary structures on the matter. That takes us, thank you very much, Honourable Minister,
Chair,
National Commission.
Chair,
Yes,
Chair,
Minister.
Just one straightforward answer. I think there was immediate question asked by Honourable Groenewald the wardens are not armed at all, Chair. And so he was raising the issue of them armed and all. They are not armed, they don't have firearms, nothing. Thanks.
Thank you for clarifying that, Honorable Minister. But when we come back in 2 weeks' time, we'll then get a better explanation on what is this wardens, what do we have with neighborhood watches, and the MECs will be invited to that meeting, and we'll also then be able to engage with them. The responsibility of oversight rests with this committee. And the oversight is not just about SAPS at a national level. We have a single police service, and as a portfolio committee, we have the responsibility for oversight over the work of the entire country. And the MECs can be called to a meeting at the committee level. So, Honorable Minister, if you cannot call them to a meeting, the committee will call them to a meeting definitely in 2 weeks' time, and they'll be called to account to Parliament. Parliament, in fact, does have the ability to call people to appear before the committee. Certainly, the MECs are normally welcome, and we've had MECs attending our meetings before. Thank you very much, honourable members. This takes us to the matter of the Central Firearm Registry. Before I look at the responses of SAPS, which I again have found inadequate, I'll ask Mr. Martin Hood. Mr. Martin Hood, Advocate Hood, you have 10 minutes to do your presentation.
Morning.
Yes, just introduce yourself, please, and explain to the members why you're sending 100 letters a day.
Morning, Madam Chair, Honourable Minister.
And Advocate Hood, before you start, I do read your emails because you seem to send me emails and you send me hard copies. I appreciate the hard copies, but my son was not very happy with me. He said I chopped down a number of trees and killed I don't know how many animals. He had fetched the hard copy, so he wasn't very impressed.
I apologise for any inconvenience, Madam Chair.
It's not an inconvenience. You have caused problems in my family. My son thinks that I'm backward. I told him I did read your email, and I read all your letters, Mr. Advocate Wood. And we receive, Nicolette, Babawa, and I receive all these letters on a daily basis. So can you please tell your clients to direct it to the Central Firearm Registry, to the Minister and the National Commissioner? Because we are only 3 and we cannot cope with all these letters you send us. Thank you.
Noted, Madam Chair.
You may start.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to turn my video on if that's acceptable, because I believe that people should see me when I'm making a presentation. I don't want to be anonymous. My name is Martin Hood. I'm an attorney, not an advocate, Madam Chair. I'm not so privileged to be an advocate.
I asked it's Nicolette that promoted you.
Madam Chair, if Nicolette could make my brief presentation available, I just want the actual presentation. The supporting documents are there. Simply, if anyone wants to query what I say, they are the supporting documents to justify the comments that I've made. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm going to be brief. I'm going to start with an observation that the purpose of my presentation is to achieve positive change, positive engagement, and not to be critical with any negative intent, but to be critical with the intent that we can have better engagement and improve the functioning of the Central Firearms Registry. What I have not dealt with in my presentation is the trust deficit between the public and SAPS, the issue of renewal of firearm licenses, because that is not a CFR function. To a great extent, it's a provincial function. And I have not dealt with the duties and functions of designated firearm officers, because I simply do not have time. If we could move on to the next page, please, Nicolette. I've given a brief overview: communication, unilateral changes, incorrect records, refusal to comply with court orders, timeless decisions, electronic connectivity. Madam Chair, you spoke about the SAPS system. I have a lot to say about that. The requests through access to information legislation that are not answered, a lack of transparency, and the cost of litigation. Next, please, Nicolette. The most important concern that the industry and stakeholders have is very simply that there is a breakdown in communication between the management of the Central Firearms Registry and stakeholders. There are, or there were, structures that were created, such as the Hunters Consultative Forum, where certain accredited organizations would sit with SAP's management and discuss day-to-day problems as well as problems in principle. That hasn't met for 5 years. And then the South African Arms and Ammunition Dealers Association used to have regular meetings with SAP's management. That has not happened for a period of 6 years. Next, please, Nicolette. I give some examples of where there are changes in policy that are not communicated to stakeholders, and this results in misunderstandings at best. At worst, it results in litigation and sometimes prosecution. A current example is the issue of the engraving of serial numbers on firearm barrels. It was not previously required. SAPs have started to enforce this now, quite understandably, I might add, but they didn't tell stakeholders, importers of firearms, and that resulted in 2 court cases recently where they were challenged in this requirement. And at the same time, the head of the Central Firearms Registry says that there must be serial numbers on barrels of firearms, but then issues import permits for firearms without serial numbers on barrels. So there's an inconsistency that needs to be addressed, and that can only be addressed by proper communication. Then next, please, if you could, Nicolette. I've dealt with, sorry, next example 3, Nicolette. There were unilateral changes in policy relating to importation of firearms and the issue of temporary permits. Again, this has not been communicated to the industry and to stakeholders. We only understand what the Central Firearms Registry wants when we get answers in court papers where they say that certain things will be done in a certain way. Now, communicating through court cases is not effective communication. It's as simple as that. We should not have to go to court to achieve communication with the regulator, which is the Central Firearms Registry. Next, please, Nicolette. This is a very important example, the transportation of firearms. Now, transportation of firearms is done by any firearm license holder, not just the transporter of firearms, any firearm license holder. SAPS formed the view in the middle of last year, the Central Firearms Registry, that firearms can only be transported in a locked container. There's a certain regulation that deals with this, but it's applicable to transporters who have a license to transport third-party firearms. So this is an issue that affects the entire firearm license community. This policy was imposed and has created a number of problems, again, without explanation and without consultation or engagement with the community, with stakeholders. That has created fundamental problems, and it's currently the subject of—
Recording stopped.
May I continue? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My apologies. I'm trying to be as quick as possible. I want to just move up the ladder, one of the priorities, and I want to talk about electronic connectivity. Nicolette, if we can go please to that slide. I will go back to the other slides. Next. Thank you. Madam Chair, this is a very important issue. In 2004, when the Act was passed, it required that there be a computerized system to run the Central Firearms Registry. The system, if properly computerized, will be a fundamentally necessary crime control mechanism. And I want to give a simple example. The sale of ammunition is not recorded digitally. It's recorded manually, which means that SAPS cannot map unusual purchases of ammunition and look at where it's happening and look at crime in the same area and see if there are any linkages. That's a simple example. If the sale of ammunition were digitized, SAPS would have a tool available to them to look at the sales of ammunition and crime in those areas. And they would be able to investigate what happens to that ammunition and to whom it has been sold. That's a very simple example that should have been in place since 2004. In 2019, SAPS agreed to a court order to implement electronic connectivity over a particular period of time, 4 years. That 4 years is up. SAPS has not awarded, as I understand it, the tender. I may
Recording in progress.
SAPS has not awarded the tender, and the time period for the entire court-supervised implementation of this system has expired. And what SAPS has done is that they have blamed CETA, the State Information Technology Agency. And I heard your comments about CETA, so it appears that SAPS has also explained to the Portfolio Committee the challenges that they say that they have. That's simply not correct. They were ordered, not CETA, SAPS was ordered to do this 4 years ago. And we are no closer to having that electronic system, which is a critical crime control tool, and it's a critical firearm control tool. SAPS do not have proper control over firearms, their whereabouts, as well as ammunition, if they're working on a paper-based system. That is so critical to the proper control of firearms. I cannot emphasize it enough. Nicolette, if we could go back a couple of slides quickly. My apologies, if we could just go back. No, if you can go back to the next one. Incorrect data. Again, this is partly because much of the information is manually submitted and is manually loaded onto computers. There is a firearm dealer that's got 7,303 firearms that the CFR says it has in its possession, and it does not have them. It's as simple as that. It has the records where these firearms were disposed of, where they were sold, or where they were transferred to another dealer. And some of these records go back to the 1980s, so they are 40 years old. And the CFR refuses to amend its records to remove those firearms from the stock of the dealer. So the records of one particular dealer are incorrect to the tune of 7,303 firearms. That dealer employed an independent auditor to audit its records at great expense to confirm that those firearms have been properly transferred. If we don't deal with these types of problems, Madam Chair, the records of the Central Firearms Registry will continue to be inaccurate. If they are inaccurate, you cannot secure, by way of example, proper prosecutions in court for illegal possession of firearms. I have not seen, for example, in my years of practice, since the implementation of the Firearms Control Act, the issue of a single certificate by the registrar confirming information in its database for the purposes of evidence in court. Very much like your DNA evidence scenario, the CFR does not issue these certificates because they cannot guarantee the accuracy of their information, which means more police work by detectives on the ground to prove illegal possession of a firearm. Next, please, Nicolette. We have a situation where I believe that the management of the Central Firearms Registry does not willingly comply with court orders. I've given an example of a judgment issued on the 17th of January 2023, and where there is then a letter from a colonel in the Central Firearms Registry saying we're not complying with this judgment because it's on appeal. It is not on appeal. I have asked the head of the Central Firearms Registry, Brigadier Sikakani, to confirm to me whether she will comply with the judgment or not, and she has not answered that urgent communication. It's contemptuous of the High Court not to comply with a court order. That is but one example. I have others. Then there's an overall, Nicolette, if you can just go to the next slide, please. Decision-making. The Central Firearms Registry is constantly served with court applications, not just by the likes of me, but by many other attorneys, because they don't comply with their own guidelines. They don't comply with their own time periods. And the end result is frustration on the part of applicants, particularly people who want competency certificates in order to gain employment. Then there is, Nicolette, I just want to move to my second last issue, that is about costs, please, if you don't mind. Thank you. I want to touch on the issue of what this is costing the state and therefore the taxpayer. There is a great deal of litigation against the Central Firearms Registry. Now, litigation, as I indicated, arises because of a lack of communication, fundamentally a lack of communication. Now, I have an example where the Office of the State Attorney was charged for 16 days preparation for a court hearing. Now, this was one opposed application. The High Court will only allow 1 day costs for preparation maximum, where this advocate charged 16 days for preparing for a court hearing. And I've given an example where a private advocate in private practice will be able to argue several court applications a day for 4 days a week. Yet this particular advocate charged 16 days work to the Office of the State Attorney. That is a clear case of what we call overreaching. He charged 350,000 Rand to prepare for a couple of hours in court. So the system, the Office of the State Attorney's resources are being abused by the advocates that they use, and they are costing the taxpayer unnecessary money, because many of these matters should not have gone to court. This particular matter deals with the change of policy by the Central Firearms Registry not to issue permits to people who do not have citizenship or permanent residence, but there are many others. I believe there was a question asked in court some time ago by the asked in Parliament by the Democratic Alliance, where a particular court case costs were queried, and that advocate had charged 1.1 million Rand in a matter where the opposing advocate had charged less than 300,000 Rand. These are examples of the cost of a failure to communicate effectively to stakeholders. I'm going to conclude, Madam Chair, by making one constructive suggestion, and that is quite simply as follows. Many years ago, going back to the tenure of Secretary Jenny Irish Kobashiani, the mandate for dealing with firearm issues was handed to the Secretariat. We, as an industry, have had occasional engagement with the Secretariat, for example, about the amendments. And we believe that the Secretariat listened to our suggestions with at least an open mind. I would like to suggest that the Secretariat be instructed to facilitate a proper investigation of why there is no stakeholder engagement between the public and the Central Firearms Registry, with the intent to establish effective channels of communication. Madam Chair, I thank you for your time, and I will take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wood. You have certainly brought us to the crux of the matter. I'm not interested in whether you have a building or not. I am concerned about the proper controls over firearms. We cannot fight the war against illegal firearms if we do not have proper controls over firearms. Can that be stay in our press statement, please? We do not have proper controls over firearms. There was a judgment and a court order in 2019 against SAPS, not against CETA and not against Public Works. I repeat, there was a judgment. There were several judgments against SAPS. I repeat, there were several judgments. Who is awarded a tender or not is not my concern. The awarding of that tender happened with CETA. That tender was suddenly cancelled. Again, who receives the tender is not the function and the business of the committee. We had that advice from our legal team from Parliament that it is not our business to look at who is awarded a tender or what happens. Our function is simply to know which judgments and court orders were passed against SAPS. There certainly were judgments. We have read those judgments. Those of you who have not read the judgments, those documents are available. Data is still submitted manually. It was a concern of the committee in 2019 when the judgment was made against SAPS. That judgment included connectivity. The matter of the electronic and manual capturing of these applications were dealt with extensively during the 2 firearm amnesties which we gave you. Minister, you came to this committee twice for amnesties. We granted you those firearm amnesties, but we are still sitting with a problem. The problem is not confined to Public Works and CETA. The judgments are against SAPS. I'm going to allow questions and then responses, and then I'll allow the Civilian Secretariat or whoever. Civilian Secretariat engagement with stakeholders is your legal responsibility, constitutional responsibility. I now recognize the Honorable Whitfield and then the Honorable Dr. Groenewald. Honorable Koza, you the third speaker. Honorable Whitfield, you may start. Thank you for the whip. Thank you for the Honorable Whip for assisting me. I'm in and out of network. Mr. Wood, I'll engage with you telephonically if I still require any further clarity. Honorable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you for giving Attorney Martin Hood the opportunity to come and present to the committee. I think it's very useful that we not only receive presentations from the Secretariat and the police, but also get inputs from stakeholders within the sector and expert stakeholders at that. So I think that we must treat the information and the suggestions that have been shared in the spirit in which they have been shared, which is to try to resolve what is an unmitigated crisis of significant proportions, which is not just about administrative justice, Chairperson, but is about ultimately tackling the nexus of corruption and the trade of illegal firearms by not ensuring we have a proper system and processes in place to record firearms in the country and to make sure that we have fit and proper persons receiving licenses. In this dysfunctional environment, it is very, very clear that SAPS is collaborating either willingly or unwillingly with the criminal networks that receive these firearms in our communities and then do the most horrific things with those firearms. I think, Chairperson, the one point I wanted to make is that this committee in this sixth Parliament visited the Central Firearms Registry more than 2 years ago, or in fact, almost 2 years ago, exactly. And Chairperson, we were given certain undertakings and commitments. The situation has deteriorated and this committee has been treated with contempt by the Central Firearms Registry and by the South African Police Service at large. I don't believe it's acceptable that after what I believe was a successful oversight visit, that there can be no improvements, that there has been no progress, and that the situation has deteriorated even further. And what I say by deteriorated, Chairperson, is that we've made no progress towards an electronic system. And you will recall the horrific piles of paper that we saw in that building. And I agree with you, Chair, that we don't want to hear complaints about buildings when there are systems available to take this entire process online. So I wanted to stress the point that this committee has been treated with contempt, and I don't believe that the situation has improved at all. What I would like to know from Mr. Hood, Chairperson, is whether he believes that the situation is in fact salvageable. And I think that improving an ecosystem of communication between all stakeholders and the South African Police Service will certainly go some way to improving this. But surely we need a radical change to the firearm environment in South Africa. And whether or not the firearm industry, to his knowledge, has any proposals on how we can establish a sort of private-public partnership, which I asked in Parliament that very question to the Minister, and the Minister indicated that it was a possibility that we could look for a different way to manage firearms licenses and the entire environment. And I'd be interested to understand whether the industry has applied its mind to some innovative models to improve accountability and systems by collaborating more intimately in an environment which may require legislative amendments. In fact, it certainly would, where we could bring the private sector on board and use the available tools and resources and technology that exists outside of the state. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Whitfield. Again today, we do not have any party political interest in the matter. Just with, as we have had with the topic on the community police forums, we are not grandstanding as political parties. We have visited the Central Firearm Registry 2 years ago. The committee has been dealing with this matter for 5 years. Are we saying that the system will not come online during this term of office? If you are saying that the system will not come online, are we leaving the sixth administration with an admission that we have completely failed this country when it comes to the proper control over firearms? If there's no proper control over firearms, we will report to Parliament that indeed this country has no proper control over firearms. This is an urgent and a very serious matter. It will be reported to Parliament before we even present the budget speech. We'll be going to the Central Firearm Registry again. Indeed, we had a successful oversight visit, but we have not been able to record any progress. If you have not been able to record any progress, please do not respond and blame Public Works. Do not blame CETA. What are we going to do? Are we going to admit that we have been defeated and that we have been unable to address this matter? Why are we fighting against the scourge of illegal firearms when we have failed to have a proper firearm registry? Those are the simple questions would like to have answered. Have you failed with the Central Firearm Registry? Then let us admit it to the country that we have failed. Honorable Groenewald?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think the focus is quite clear here when we talk about the system. You know, a lot has been said about gun control in South Africa, and normally it is very easy to do blame shifting, and then the legal firearm owners in South Africa are blamed because of the illegal firearms in South Africa and the murder rate and everything as far as that is concerned. Now, Chair, with great respect, I've said it many times, gun control is about a system that is workable, that is effective, and that is accurate. Now, Advocate Hood can correct me, but in my mind, I think this is about the third time I have to listen to him where he put his plea forward in a portfolio committee of police, even previous parliaments, and putting exactly more or less the same problems on the table of the portfolio committee. For instance, the meetings with the stakeholders in terms of firearms. It's not the first time that Advocate Hood is mentioning this. And maybe he can correct me. Maybe he can remember how many times exactly he have presented this problem, and all the problems he is mentioning here today is coming for years and years. Now, Chairperson, with great respect, the system is one, but the system is misused by criminals to actually enhance criminality. I mean, you know, we're, can I say, in the start of the hunting season. Again, we have situations where bribes are taken, where police officers pull off hunters, and we even had the absurd situation where a police member said, well, you have a firearm for purpose of, for instance, sports shooting, you're not allowed to have it in your possession, although the license has been produced. And already in 22 May last year, the police issued a circular to say to the members, listen, as long as you have the firearms license in your possession, you may have the firearm with you. Now, it is misused because they are threatened that they will be arrested. And then, of course, we have the situation is nothing else than extortion, and people have to pay money. Chairperson, it's because the system is actually the major problem. And I want to know, and let me also say this, I've asked questions in Parliament about court cases the police services have lost, specifically as far as firearms are concerned. And I don't get all the correct figures, because then it says you must ask for Justice Department, and then Justice Department said, well, you must ask for the police. As far as I know, the police, if they lost the case, it is from their budget. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what the way I have it. In the end, they have to pay that money. But Chairperson, we are dealing with a situation, besides, can I say, the incompetence of the system, that the police do not comply to court orders. And I want to appeal to Advocate Hood. Martin, I think the time has come that you must come forward with your stakeholders and ask for arrests of contempt of court. Let the court issue such arrest and let the responsible people be arrested. Because really, Chairperson, how many years must we talk about this? And I would really want to hear from the police services what exactly they're going to do, and they won't be able to answer it here, They must give us a document. They must write us a letter to put out all the steps they're going to take to ensure that this situation be corrected. We must also stop blaming legal firearm owners for the chaos when it comes to firearms. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Koza.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. Greetings to colleagues, Minister, and Mr. Hood. Chairperson, I want to commend Mr. Hood for the presentation, but you writing those love letters to you until the system is corrected. We and any other ordinary South African, law-abiding South African citizens find ourselves having to be classified as illegal firearm owners because of the mess that is in that office. I know, Chair, you've spoken about the love letters that the attorney is writing. He must keep bringing them on because he's on the right track. Never tired to do that, Mr. Hood, and we appreciate it. Chair, I just want to say that from where I stand, we do not have a central firearm register. It's a mess. But I'm looking forward, Chair, because on the previous one, I was not there. I'm looking forward to this oncoming visit so that one can go and actually witness what is going on in that office. To blame Public Works and SITA, to quote your own words, Chairperson, it would be an abdication of responsibility from SAPS. That's neither here nor there. The buck stops with them, particularly the minister and the national commissioner. There's no shifting the blame. The buck stops with them. We can say all these other things and blame the officers below, but the buck stops with them. And let us agree that over the years, they failed to carry out their mandate. If I can make an example, Chairperson, many innocent civilians and citizens are forced to be in possession of illegal firearms because of the inefficiency in that office. If I may make an example with one particular individual, this individual goes through a court case, gets acquitted, and when he goes to apply for a competence because he needed to renew his firearm license, that office writes to him and they say, when you were convicted with murder and you were sentenced to X number of years, therefore you do not qualify. The guy says, I was acquitted. Then they say, go and prove it. Then he must go to court, he must go to and bring the records. But if we had an efficient, electronic, technologically advanced system, these things would be uploaded and it would be easy for those for that information to be accessed. This particular civilian would not have gone through the pain of being in possession of an illegal license in inverted commas, because once your license expires, then it becomes illegal. But also, Chair, I think the whole thing needs to be relooked at. You have a license. 5 years later, you are told, go and renew it. Then your license all of a sudden is your firearm all of a sudden is illegal. What happens? What happened to it? It's illegal. You are illegal. Same with the driver's license. I'm sorry, Chair, to bring this in. I know it's not relevant here, but I'm just looking at a holistic system so that as we move forward and we're fixing the country, we understand sometimes the implications. You have a driver's license. 5 years later, the card expires. You are told you are not in possession of a valid driver's license. You get fined. What happened to your driving skills? What happened to your competence and the license that you got before? Does expiry of this card that you're holding in your hands render you an illegal driver? Same with this issue of licenses. Maybe we need to look at those things. Lastly, I think, Chair, I heard one of my colleagues saying maybe we should look at a triple P, private-public partnership in terms of what must happen. I do not think so. We've seen it with G4S that this public-private partnership do not necessarily work. They are easily corruptible. So what we need innovation. We need employment of latest technology and people who know what they are doing. But if you take, no offense to Skakane, Brigadier Skakane who's in charge there. If you take an old person like myself who was born before technology, you say I must be in charge and lead innovation in a fast-moving industry like the firearm industry. Definitely, I'm going to mess it up because I'm not going to understand the agency and what in ensure that we get the best of the technology. Lastly, Chairperson, I wish to say that all that needs to be done, let us hold the relevant people to account. I wish to raise Mr. Hood. Mr. Hood, if there's been so many court judgments and the SAPS is not honoring those court judgments, why don't you go to court? Because you seem to have the resources and have those individuals charged with contempt of court and be arrested and be sent to jail. Maybe we can be able to send a clear wake-up call and get some action in that office. I submit, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Koza. Honorable Majosi. Honorable Whip, can you also
Thank you, Chair.
before Honorable Majosi you speak, Honorable Whip, can you prepare yourself? Because you requested this oversight visit to the Central Firearm Registry, which I've complied with. Honorable Majosi.
Thank you, Chair. But I do know about these issues because I think, as the chairperson has said, that we receive these emails. It is not the presenter that has received in that was sending alone. There are many chairperson who are sending to us every day. I always send to Babalwa because I get these emails of people not having renewed their firearms because of challenges that they are facing within the system, and it becomes a serious problem. So I don't know, Chairperson, I think must get their order. We can't keep on if they don't have a their manual system, then everything must be. People do not have to endure so much challenges and pain in going through the renewal of life. So honestly, Chairperson, I'm at the know about this, and I have been sending to Babalwa is not him alone, but Chairperson about one and the same thing. So the police need to house in order. We know what is it that we are working on, which is unfair. That civilians must now come to us and email us, find us in the website and email all the information and all the challenges that they are facing. It's truly unfair on them. So please, Chairperson, can we hold them accountable? Can we give them a time frame? When are they going to come back to us with a proper response and reporting that they've fixed their systems and they are in order? Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Honorable Majosi. I am not singling out Mr. Hood for all these letters. And I'm not using the term love letters derogatively. It has been a huge concern and a matter of emphasis by the committee, the chairperson in particular, the members, all the members in general. Now we keep all these records. When we write our legacy report, Minister and National Commissioner, we'll detail how many letters we sent you on the Central Firearm Registry and your lack of responses to our communication. You are unable to respond to the committee. So when you respond, Minister, please, can you indicate why you fail to respond to the chairperson? Because all these members sent the letters to Babalwa, who refers it to me. I am not exaggerating. When we had those firearm amnesties, we raised these matters with you. The number of letters we received, the capacity we have in the committee to deal with those and respond to those letters has been zilch. Absolutely zilch. We haven't responded to a single letter because SAPS has not assisted us. I want you to show one single letter that you've responded to the committee on firearms. Our record shows that there hasn't been a single response to the committee. Then you are undermining the committee. You are completely undermining the committee. You are treating this committee with contempt. You have no respect for the committee because you haven't responded to a single letter on firearms and illegal firearms. When it comes to the release of the crime stats, you will be speaking about this crimes, about illegal firearms. We are on TV speaking about illegal firearms. Police are confiscating illegal firearms, but you do not respond to this committee. This committee asked how many illegal firearms we have in the country because of the failures of your system. The failure of SAPS to have these systems taken online. And we want to know, are you going to leave us by the end of this term with a system that is dysfunctional? Will you be able to salvage this system? Right now, we have no confidence in the ability of SAPS because you are again going to blame CETA and you are going to blame Public Works. We have heard enough about CETA. Are you, as SAPS, unable to solve this problem? Let us be frank and honest with the president and with the nation and tell the nation that we do not have proper controls over firearms and we do not hope to have that within the next year. And then within the next year, we would have reported to the president and to the nation that there will be no control over firearms. Honorable Whip, you requested a meeting to the Central Firearm Registry oversight visit. Would you like to comment, Honorable Whip?
Thank you, Chair. I think honorable colleagues and yourselves have said a mouthful. But one thought, because there was a visit, remember the issue of firearms is important in the context of the crimes that are committed in the country. Now, one thought that since there was a visit in the last 2 years, and there were commitments made or promises, it's important that as a committee, which is doing oversight, we do a follow-up to visit the registry and see how far are they with the promises that they have made. And if there are challenges, this committee can also appreciate those challenges. If there are successes, this committee and in local section of what was promised before. I think that's the logic behind requesting for this visit, so that we see how far are we before the end of the term in as far as what was promised when we visited before is concerned. But colleagues have covered me in terms of the issue of firearms, because many crimes are committed and where the police may not be able to trace this firearm against another and so on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Whip. You have basically summarized what it is we seek to do. If we have answers on how far we have come, our success stories or our failures, has the situation improved or has the situation deteriorated? When you release your crime stats and you present to us crime stats according to crimes committed because of firearms, are we unable to trace these firearms or can you trace these firearms? I'm not going to ask Mr. Wood to respond. Now I'm going to ask the National Commissioner and the Minister. Please, I do not want to hear about Public Works and CETA. Those judgments have been found against SAPS. The judgments, those court orders have been found against SAPS. Minister, in the incidents of the DNA, there were judgments found against the National Commissioner in his personal capacity. The then National Commissioner, there were judgments against him. So are you responding to those court orders? There was a court order in 2019. The court order was against SAPS. Have you responded to these court orders? It's as simple as that. No further response is required. If you have not, if you are unable to answer our questions, do we have a central firearm registry? It's as simple as that. Thank you very much, National Commissioner.
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Honorable Chair, we do have a central firearm registry in the country, and there is work that is being done. We do acknowledge, yes, we have not yet reached the desired level, but we do have a central firearm registry. With regard to the system, there is, Honorable Chair said I should mention CETA or Public Works, but unfortunately there are legislations that binds us to that effect, which of course are legislation of the country coming from the legislature. CETA, yes, they did award a contract for electronic connectivity has been awarded 5th April 2023, which is the system that will then come and make our work much more easier. But what I'm going to do, Honorable Chair, is to engage the relevant role players with a view to compress the period over which they would want to develop this system so that it can be done much more quicker than the anticipated period, which is more than 2 years, and see if this can be done within 1 year. With regard to court judgment, Honorable Chair, I will ask my colleagues, General Mamutiki and Skakane, to elaborate on. Yes, there are court orders which are against SAPS, and there are also court orders which SAPS have won against those relevant parties. But however, there was a question around why is there no stakeholder meetings? Honorable Chair, I'm sure the advocate would know that when I was still a deputy, I was chairing meetings around the stakeholders meeting, and it was them that took a decision as stakeholders to say no. The Civilian Secretariat of Police are in a better position to chair this meeting. As SAPS, we can't be a regular player. And as a result, we handed over those meetings to the Civilian Secretariat of Police. But with regard to the system, that is where we are at the current Honorable Chairperson. We think engagement with the relevant stakeholders will assist us in bringing
the system to be in a much more shorter period. But currently, we are still working on that manual system, as you are aware, and the performance is quite improved drastically in terms of the be it competencies, be it firearm licenses. Yeah, Honorable Chair, I'm not sure if I can also address the matter that you open up with around the DNA cases. Can you give me a green light on that?
We are just finishing the Central Firearm Registry, then we'll come to the DNA. We have to conclude. Sorry, we have to conclude now.
Okay, no, thanks, Honorable Chair. I will ask General Mamuteti and General Skakani just to comment. General Mamuteti.
Please, I'm closing on this matter of the Central Firearm Registry. Could you give us those responses in writing, please? Minister, you are saying when we go to the Central Firearm Registry, we'll still find a manual system and we'll still find those applications in boxes. You do not have an electronic system. The system, whatever was awarded on the 5th of April, so we are still going to find all those applications in boxes. This will determine the report that we write to Parliament. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Your opportunity now.
Yeah, Chairperson, I don't think I want to go toe-to-toe with anybody here. It should not be acted as if Portfolio Committee and members of the Portfolio Committee don't have and don't understand the problems about the issues that you say we must not talk about them. Chairperson, time and again, I've simply said, I don't have an office as a minister, as a Ministry of Police. I work from home. Last or 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, the new minister of Public Works visited the offices in Telkom, where also the issue of the bulk you talk about should be moving to. The minister held a press briefing saying the National Commission, the minister, they must move there. I have written a letter to him to say, can you write a letter? They are refusing to write that letter. The order is standing from the emergency.
Recording stopped.
We can't occupy that building. If it was on our shoulders, we would have found
Recording in progress.
On there and all that. So for me, it would be awkward for the Portfolio Committee that has called both ministries together to try to resolve this matter, not to understand today that the Ministry of Police have a serious problem on that matter. Chairperson, when it comes to CETA, the Minister of Police has written the Minister of Communication, Ndabeni Abraham, who left, has written the Minister of Communication, Ndabeni, who has left, have written the new minister, who have said, please give us the opportunity to work on this matter. And we've made it public, both cabinet and with this committee, to say if we can be given the opportunity of doing these things ourselves, life could have been better. Today, it really surprises me that we can't talk about the things that have been frustrating and we have been putting them on the table. If that is an issue, that's fine. I'll take it. I would agree that moving technologically on the matter, which, by the way, the police does have the capacity within our TMS, granted this thing, Chair, on the 5th of April. But even in a funny way, they grant, this thing is granted without talking to us, without bringing police on board. We'll have to discuss the specifics after this thing has been granted. That's how CETA works or does not work. with the departments. By the way, it's by the law that will go through these channels. It's not our choice. It's not the way we want it. We would have really loved to do these things direct and all that. That does not mean that we could not have moved better. We still have to move better. But this portfolio committee, these matters have been requested that can you try and sort, can you help us? Hence, we had a meeting with the ministry, both ministries, and there's been no progress since those ministries, even up to today. So it's an issue that needs to be, and if it is not resolved legislatively and otherwise, it will be there for a very long time, Chair. That's what I want to say at the present moment. I'll look at the issue of the letters, Chair, why I haven't responded to them. Maybe I can have some online communication with the chair and see if I have received or not received those letters. I'm not going to answer on that. But the question of SITA and the question of Public Works and the Ministry of Police, which by chair is across the board problem. Every department complains about this thing. So today, to say we mustn't talk about them as if it is our own innovation to say we have a problem with them, it really surprises me. Thanks, Chair.
Recording stopped.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'm not going to have a to and fro with the Honorable Minister. Minister, there's an executive function, there's the judiciary, and there's a legislative and a parliamentary function. Your functions of having an office, it's an administrative and an executive function. Now, if as the executive you have failed, it is not the responsibility then of Parliament to intervene between two ministers. All those ministers report to Cabinet. So if you do not have an office space, committee cannot find you an office space. That's a basic responsibility of the administration and the executive. So it means the administration and the executive has failed in its simple duty and responsibility.
Recording in
We are
progress.
not an implementing arm of state. We are an oversight. And this committee is exercising its oversight function. Oversight over the executive. Oversight over the executive, which has legal and juristic responsibility as the executive authority over the accounting official. If two colleagues in cabinet have problems in delivering, it is the two colleagues who report collectively in cabinet. As the oversight body, which is a parliamentary structure, we report to Parliament. Our report to Parliament is about whether the executive and the administration has been able to do the work which is given to them by the Constitution and the legal framework. In terms of the judiciary, there have been court judgments against the executive and the administration. Those are court judgments against the executive and the administration. The judiciary have expressed its view. Now Parliament has a right to express its view. Parliament requested you, Honorable Minister, 5 years ago that you came to Parliament, said that other bodies in the JCPS cluster like defense are doing these things themselves. That was an agreement with, we can go back to the minutes of those meetings and give you the dates where those agreements were made. We have attempted to correct the situation by calling in your counterparts. Now Parliament will express ourselves on the matter. We will do our final oversight visit on in next weekend, and Parliament will express ourselves on the matter. That is why I said that for now, we have dealt with other departments. Now, for now, we are exercising our oversight function over SAPS and the executive who reports to Parliament. And Parliament is simply doing its work, Honourable Minister. As Parliament, we report to Parliament through the budget process. And this is what we will do. I'm going to cut this short now. We've spent a lot of time on this matter. Minister, we have the very same problem when it comes to the DNA matter, that there were court judgments against the National Commissioner in his personal capacity. There have been court judgments against SAPS. Could you please take those court judgments and respond to us? You are currently in court. Your presentation says that you are still in the process of pre-trial. According to the court papers, the pre-trial has already happened. Now, those are papers of the court. So, Minister, there's a judicial system, and the judiciary gives instructions. The Parliament responds to the judiciary. And likewise, the executive, as these three arms of state, we respond to these judgments. So could we please, you are in pre-trial on the DNA matter. I'm not interested in the wording of tenders. I'm interested in the functioning of the state. And as the Parliament, we are interested in our oversight responsibility. On this matter of DNA, you are addressing the DNA backlog, Honourable Minister. We thank the Minister and the President for addressing the DNA backlog. I would like to know simply, those DNA samples, has the chain of evidence been corrupted? Are those samples going to stand the test of time in a court of law? If we have to call the Minister of Justice to our next meeting to respond, and you have to respond, Minister, we'll do so. It's not a year, we are simply doing our legacy report, and we are reporting on the matter of CPS, the Central Firearm Registry, and the DNA. You have addressed the DNA backlog. Are those samples legal? Can they be used in a court of law? If they cannot be used in a court of law, can those judgments be reversed? It's a risk to the entire criminal justice system. Can we safely say as a committee that there is no risk to our country's criminal justice system? As a committee now, we are saying because of the absence of the renewal, the capacity for the renewal of firearms. So Honorable Khoza is correct. If you cannot have driver's licenses renewed, likewise, you do not have the renewal, the capacity to do the renewal of firearm licenses. There's an implicit risk to our country and to society. Illegal firearms, please, firearm owners, never tire. We appreciate the work which has been done by the stakeholders, stakeholder meetings. If the civilian secretariat has not met with stakeholders, Minister, before we go and do our budget report, could you please ensure that the civilian secretariat meets with these stakeholders? Civilian secretariat, could you give us a date for when this meeting will take place? On all these three matters, whether you have met with the MECs or not, in 2 weeks' time, we'll call the MECs to this committee. The letters will be submitted to the MECs, inviting them to this committee, and their HODs, inviting them to this committee in 2 weeks. The committee will visit the Central Firearm Registry, and then on the legality of our DNA samples. You will be called back to come and explain to us, not on whether you have court orders. Your presentation, in fact, is misleading. You are saying that you are still going to pre-trial. You have already gone to pre-trial. So please let us not ask why you are coming to mislead the committee. Could we please take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and do the DPCI presentation. 5 minutes comfort break, and then DPCI, could you present us with your presentation, which you were supposed to do last week? Thank you very much. Mr. Wu, thank you very much. I'll communicate with you via any electronic means, even if we have to have a Zoom meeting. I'll communicate with you. I'll also monitor when those stakeholder meetings take place. Those stakeholder meetings, the Civilian Secretariat must report to us. Thank you very much. 5-minute break.
Recording stopped.
Thank you, honorable members. Do we have the members? Are you ready? Honorable members, may I start? I'll give the members 2 minutes to join. Honorable members, General Labia, let us just have an indication. I wouldn't like us to start if our members are not here.
I'm here, Chairperson. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, General Labia, Honorable Minister, National Commissioner, and the team. Thank you very much, honorable members. I appreciate the work we are doing. As I'm saying, you'll receive the first draft of the legacy report and the details of the outstanding matters will be presented in the legacy report. Honorable Minister, the legacy report has nothing to do with whether we took decisions on certain matters or not. It's simply, have we done our oversight work? Has something been done? Has it not been done? If it has not been done, like the SAPS Amendment Bill, we'll have to refer it to the 7th administration. So we just want to know, have we been doing it? If you haven't been able to do it, whether it's because of your colleague or not, if it's because of your colleague, what has Cabinet decided? And we are reporting on it in the legacy report. It is not giving you an opportunity to talk or not. You've told us about your problems you have with your colleagues. How have you solved your problem with a colleague? Committee called you in, sent you back. We report now, we give our legacy report and then report to Parliament that we have been unable to solve the situation. Again, I start with the legacy report. Members, I went back to the matter of the DPCI. Announcement and tablings and committee report. I'll send you the details. Nicolette, could you please send the details to the members? I sent you this, Nicolette. On the 3rd session, 5th Parliament. 5th Parliament, 17 November 2016. Minister Police, you were given instructions for the DPCI head, the deputy head, and the provincial heads of the DPCI. I'll give you the details on your instructions. Second announcement, tablings of committee, 5th session, 5th Parliament, date Tuesday, 11 September 2018. 2018, who was the chair of the committee then, Nicolette?
Honorable Chairperson, that was Advocate Francois Beckman.
Right, Advocate Beckman. Again, 2018, 30 November 2018, Beckman, the same chairperson. Concern, Nicolette, is that on the 30th of November 2018, the Speaker referred the matter to the committee. Speaker referred the matter to the committee. The committee has to respond to the Speaker, will respond to the Speaker no later than a week from today. Can it so be minuted, Nicolette, that the committee chairperson will respond to the Speaker within a week's time? The Speaker referred the matter, the following matter, the legacy report notes this. The matter has not been finalized and the chairperson will finalize the matter and report. If the matter is not finalized, Minister, I will report to the Speaker that we have been unable to finalize the matter. It's not a matter of whether you do it or not. I'm simply reporting on matters which have been referred to by the Speaker to the committee chair.
Chair, I'm sorry, the Minister, I went offline hearing you. I catch you now, as you say, as the matter is not finalized. If you could repeat there,
Yes. Honorable Minister, I'll explain to you what the speaker referred to me. It was referred to Bjerkman, Advocate Bjerkman. We have been unable to conclude on the matter. The matter I'm referred to, please note, Nicolette, it's the determination of salary levels of the DPCI head, the deputy head, and the provincial heads. We have a week in which we will write that letter to the speaker on the determination of salary levels for the DPCI head. It's got nothing to do with General Labia. This is a matter of the chairperson, the speaker. You know, when the speaker refers a matter to the
Chair, you are completely lost.
If I do not respond, because I was raised in 2018.
Chair, you are completely lost. I don't know whether it's me or generic.
Committee.
Her line is very bad. We can't hear her. So.
We can't hear you. You are lost.
You are correct, Minister.
Outstanding.
I can hear the chairperson.
No, so it's not just me. It looks like it's generic, Chair.
Yes, Minister, it's generic. We can't hear the chairperson now at all.
Okay.
Honorable members, I was kicked out. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Chair.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm apologizing. I was kicked out of the meeting. In conclusion, again on that, Speaker requests that the chairperson responds on the matter of the privileges, allowances, and salary levels of the DPCI head, deputy, provincial heads, and the last week we also commented on the filling of the vacancy of the DPCI judge. I don't need explanations on it. Please respond in writing, and I will then respond to the speaker. General Labia, you may do your presentation. If I'm kicked out or my network fails me, could you please assist? I am online now. I'm in the meeting again. If I'm kicked out, please, Honorable Whoop. I have seen the presentation, and I'm happy with the presentation. The members can raise their concerns. I'm very happy. Thank you, General Labia. Thank you, Minister. I'm very happy with this presentation. I am meeting with the chair, the House Chair, this afternoon on the processing of the matters referred to Parliament by the Zondo Commission. We have sent all the members the program or the framework of Parliament on our responses to the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. We're meeting with the Chair of Chairs at 1:15, and you will receive the outcome of that meeting. General Labia, you may start your presentation. Minister, would you like to introduce, or the National Commissioner, would you like to introduce, or could I start with General Labia? National Commissioner, are you happy that I start with General Labia? Do you have anything to say, National Commissioner?
Thanks, Honorable Chairperson. I would want to introduce the presentation, but also On the earlier matter, Honorable Chair, just to guarantee the nation that the exhibits, that is the DNA exhibits, have been secured all the time. The integrity is not tarnished at all, and they were never at any time under possession of anybody else except the police. They were in possession of the police, so their integrity is not questionable at all, and that we can open it to testing by whoever, anybody. That's correct. So thanks, the Honorable Chair. Then coming to the presentation, as you are aware that DPCI fall under program is a sub-program of program 3, and the law did indicate that DPCI should be a separate program. We engaged the Treasury in this regard, Honorable Chairperson, and they indicate that because it's an investigation program, so it should should still continue with program 3 of the detectives. However, as a sub-program, be ring-fenced separately. So that's where we are, and we will again engage the Treasury and see if we cannot find a way. But up to so far, they said no, it can only be ring-fenced under program 3 as a sub-program and not separate. Thank you very much. General Libya can take us through. Thanks, Chair.
Chairperson, I'm sorry. I will request
Minister?
to
Minister,
request.
are you coming in? Are you coming in before you leave?
No, well, I'll leave with the introduction made by the National Commissioner on the matter of the DPCI.
Thank you, Minister. The DPCI presentation, I'm not speaking on behalf of the other members, but it is a good presentation. And on the matter that the two of us will discuss on the determination of the salary levels, that is not my function. I just have to respond to the speaker. So
Okay.
the speaker's letter has to be responded to, and that matter was referred by the National Assembly tablings and committee reports. Nicolette, I'll also give you the details of those tablings and committee reports.
That's okay.
Thank you, Minister, but the DPCI presentation, it's a good presentation. I don't have any questions. I'm not stopping the members of asking questions. Then, thank you very much, Minister. Thank you for being with us for such a long time. We appreciate your time. General Labia, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable members,
Recording
the
in
Honorable
progress.
Minister of Police, the Deputy Minister of Police, the National Commissioner, the Acting Civilian Secretariat, and all my colleagues. The DPCI will be making the presentation in terms of the overview of the presentation. We will be starting just to indicate the mandate of the DPCI, some critical provisions in the Police Act, the estimated budget, which has already been dealt with by the Greater Service on the 19th, the performance indicators that are being measured in the annual performance plan, and those will be in slide 10 to 17. Then we shall also indicate some insight into some of the performance indicators that are measured in the DPCI annual operational plan, which are not necessarily the one that appears in the annual performance plan. Then we will also hint on the future goals and the priorities of the DPCI for 2023-2024 financial year. As I indicated, the mandate of the DPCI is mostly found in terms of Section 17D of the Police Act. And I will not be reading that verbatim, but one can see the functions of the directorate is to prevent and combat and investigate national priority offenses. The national priority offenses are defined in terms of the Act, which obviously when one reads this definition is when one unpacks what types of crimes are sitting under the umbrella of national priority offenses. Mostly it can be safely said that Section 17A of the Police Act that defines national priority offense include serious organized crime that can be seen in the block that we have put on the left-hand side. And then in the middle, we indicate serious commercial crime investigation. So those are the types of commercial crime offenses, both common law as well as statutory offenses and serious corruption matters. So those are the three critical areas where the focus of the mandate of the DPCI is. To be able to deal with these, we have got three operational components. That is a serious organized crime investigation component, serious commercial crime investigation component, as well as a serious corruption investigation components. Those components deal with those type of offenses. Just coming to the critical provisions in the Act, we just highlighted Section 17K2 and Section 17.4D, which the National Commissioner have already highlighted that in terms of the law, it is required that there should be a separate program for the DPCI. So currently, as the National Commissioner has indicated, the DPCI is still a sub-program in the reporting processes. But the Act, as I have indicated, it says it should be a separate program. So that is a matter that we shall have also indicated in the past, in the 2020-2021 annual report that we are considering this aspect. There is also Section 17G of the Police Act, which refers to condition of service of members of the DPCI. This is intended to retain the personnel within the DPCI. Those critical provisions are the one that we needed to highlight. Coming to the overview of the budget, which I will not be reading because the greater service, the Chief Financial Officer have dealt with this on the 19th when there were presentation made. Just to highlight that there is an increase of 3.26% from the previous allocation. That is why we are to be allocated 2.247 in this 2023-2024 financial year. It's just the same information in a schematic way. Indeed, it just shows that from 2017, there has been increase in the budget allocation. And then the last one at the right-hand side is where we say that we are sitting at. Coming to the annual performance plan, we just need to be indicating that the DPCI is measured on 9 performance indicators, of which 6 are appearing in the SAPS annual performance plan. The others are obviously appearing in the DPCI operational plan. Those that are appearing in the SAPS annual performance plan are listed in this slide. Those that focuses on serious organized crime investigation is we are looking at percentage of registered serious organized crime project investigation that have been successfully closed. We also look at the percentage of identified clandestine laboratories dismantled with arrests. Looking at the serious commercial crime investigations, we are measuring the percentage of trial-ready case dockets for serious commercial crime. In the serious corruption investigations, we are looking at percentage of trial-ready case dockets for serious corruption within the public sector. We are also looking at the same trial-ready case dockets for serious corruption within the private sector. Coming to the priority crime specialized investigations, in this component, we are looking at percentage of serious cyber-related crime support case files that are successfully investigated within a period of 90 calendar days. The performance indicators that are not in the one that I have indicated before, but which is sitting in the DPCI as de-escalated, those are, we look at the conviction rate of serious corruption within the public sector, as well as conviction rate for serious corruption within the private sector. We also look at the conviction rate for serious commercial crime. So those are the ones that are not sitting in the SAPS annual performance plan. There are areas where we have indicated the revision of the APP in this 2023-2024. That is the JCPS key performance indicators, the trial-ready dockets, as well as the conviction rate. They form part of the public sector, which is why we have readjusted so that we look at percentage of trial-ready case dockets and conviction rate for serious corruption within the public sector as it incorporates also the JCPS. We also look at the statistical data which will be recorded for different departments, which is not necessary to be saying JCPS and the like. That we do in-house. The APP key performance areas, the set targets, in this slide is just to indicate what has been the performance of the last previous 3 years and coming to the estimated performance, which is an estimate, and then the targets that has been set. As I have indicated, this page will be talking to the percentage of trial-ready case docket for serious corruption within the public sector. And I think that without reading again what is reflected in this slide, it can be seen what the performance has been and where the target is set. The percentage of trial-ready case docket for serious corruption within the public sector is also reflected in this slide. In the next slide, slide 15, this is the percentage of registered serious organized crime projects investigation that were successfully closed. And one can see the performance over the past 3 years, as well as the target that have been set. Looking at the percentage of identified clandestine laboratories that has been dismantled, it can again be seen from the financial year 2019 to 2020 up to 2021, 2022. Those are the performance that were recorded. And we can now indicate also the estimated performance at the end of the third quarter. Looking at slide number 16 is percentage of trial-ready case dockets for serious commercial crime. The performance, it can be reflected, which is an environment which carries complicated cases, the cases that demand a lot of work and the statements. The successfully investigated serious cyber-related crime support files that are completed within a period of 90 days. It can be seen where we have been performing in the previous years. And this is the environment that will also require capacity, as most of the crimes are perpetrated using cyber space. Coming to the conviction rate for serious corruption within the public sector, those were the performance that have been registered. This obviously we work closely with the prosecuting authority as we investigate, and then prosecution will be done by our colleagues in the NPA. It can be seen the conviction rate for serious corruption within the private sector. The figures are reflected here, as well as the conviction rate for serious commercial crime that are also reflected. One will also observe that in this regard, we are looking at the counts, which is why the charges are always highly complicated. You can see 296,000 counts. This is an environment where the investigation can be complicated, which are also show some of the example toward the end. When it comes to performance indicators that are measured in the DPCI annual operational plan, we just cited some of them because in-house there are several activities that we are monitoring to ensure that our officers perform to the expected level. I'm not going to read this because it has been submitted, but it's just to show the honorable members that there are several aspects that in-house we are looking at trial-ready case dockets, as well as the conviction rate on certain matters of involving 5 million and above, though both involved in the procurement fraud as well as corruption. There are certain things that the PSIRA is looking at, which deals with financial and asset forfeiture investigation. Here, when one hears about the attachment of the assets, it means that we shall have performed the investigations working closely with the asset forfeiture unit of the NPA to attach assets, both the serious corruption investigation, serious organized crime, and serious commercial crime do investigation of these matters. We also look at the prosecution in terms of the poker. Criminal gangs are prosecuted in terms of this legislation of 1998. We will cite one example of these types of matters where we are not dealing with an individual, but we are dealing with an organized criminal group. We register projects for the purpose of investigation using all of the methods, and we look at the detection rate for serious organized crime, including those murders on police officials, the CITs and the like. We also look at a percentage of trial-ready case dockets conviction rate for organized crime. This we are just indicating, honorable members, that matters that are not reflected in the annual performance plan are being monitored in-house, and we deal with those. There are matters of crimes against the state, terrorist network groupings, matters related to Pogda Tara. We also do the visit to the clandestine chemical companies where obviously drugs produced at times, the chemicals will be coming from some companies. So we look at the import and export of chemicals that require monitoring in terms of the international laws. We look at the detection of killing of police officials, the cash in transit investigations, the explosives, matters that are related to the use of explosives either at the ATM or the CITs, is several matters that we look at. We also conduct major investigations, which are like projects, but they are not projects. It's a major investigation, mostly applicable in the serious commercial crime environment. So we look at the issue of money laundering and the asset forfeiture, money laundering, which also comes to the FATF and the related matters. Money laundering case files are also attended to by the PCSI, which provide the information back to the investigation teams. We look at the charging of suspects on money laundering. In every investigation that we conduct, we look at the various sections, which is in the POCA Act. That is where money laundering, organized criminal groupings, the confiscation of assets, either in terms of criminal matter or civil matter, we use both Section 5 and Section 6 of the POCA Act. We also look at the proactive financial intelligence report that need to be attended. These are matters that come from the Financial Intelligence Center that receive certain information and provide the same to the DPCI for further investigations. I have indicated that we also deal with asset forfeiture matters. We have also the digital forensic investigation section, which is in the PCSI that assist us in dealing with matters hidden in computers, telephone, handsets, and the like. So this is specialist environment that assist in searching for evidence hidden in those gadgets. We also have to do the analysis on an annual basis that we compile the reports. There are matters that we request from several institutions that we make use of Section 205, which we monitor how that is faring. We also do the profiling of certain generators of crime, and so that our project can be directed at what is the threatening the community. So those are the matters that we are looking at, which are not visible here, as the matters that have to be presented become too much, and we have got to limit them, but we consider them and continuously monitor them. On the future goals of the DPCI, in this slide 26 is just a schematic presentation on some of the things that we are looking at. The procurement of specialized technological aids. Here there are certain gadgets that we obviously look at, which we'll be working with our greater service, the TMS, to ensure that we have got specialized software to assist us in conducting our investigations. We also have to continue to capacitate the DPCI and looking also at certain provisions that I shall already have highlighted that need to be finalized. Suitable accommodation is one of those areas that I think we have been indicating on this aspect that we still need suitable accommodation, including our own head office that cannot be able to accommodate personnel that are based at headquarters. There are also operational goals that we look at and inclusive of the support-related activities to ensure that the DPCI can be able to deal with its mandate. Included in this is the attendance of the recommendation of FATF. That is where we are prioritizing to ensure that the issues that will assist us in moving out of the gray listing are attended to. Those matters have been listed in the project that we are currently working on with other departments. There are also investigations of relating to the state-owned enterprises. We focus on these inclusive of the municipalities that at times there are funds that will obviously be stolen from those levels instead of delivering service. We deal with those in terms of the procurement, fraud, and the like. Prosecution in terms of the poker, that is what we continue to prioritize. As I shall have indicated, in the area of financial action task force, the FATF that I have hinted, is just an indication that there are certain things that we look at, terrorist financing, the money laundering. These are the things that are expected in terms of attending to the FATF recommendations. On this too, I just placed this slide 29 so that some of the members that need to familiarize themselves with the issue of the FATF can know what is FATF and what this body is about and why we are expected to be implementing the recommendations made by this body. As South Africa is a signatory to some of these international organizations where their resolutions need to be implemented. Money laundering, terror financing are the areas that we will be focusing on. As one will appreciate, there has already been a lot of prosecution on money laundering, but there is certain typologies that we shall have to increase our focus on. In terms of some of the activities that we do, we are busy conducting training jointly with other stakeholders. The Financial Intelligence Center is also organizing some, and I think our personnel are currently participating in the workshop in this regard. So several activities we do jointly. And we also look at the issues that are sitting in the National Risk Assessment Report, but all of those are the activities that we are doing. We are also ensuring that we are filling vacant posts. We will be targeting this specialized environment so that we are able to address those weaknesses that have been identified. Building the capable and professional DPCI, we shall also be indicating in this slide that we are currently sitting at 54%. The honorable members will recall that at some stage we were sitting below 50. We have passed 50%, and I think that we have on the 1st of this month also increased the capacity with the implementation of project 290, which we are still busy finalizing some of the administrative processes. So there is an intention that finance allowing, we need to fill all the vacant posts within 2 financial year. So that will be obviously based on the availability of funds. We indicate the estimated amount that might be required, but this obviously it will be worked to look at the entry levels and the like. But otherwise, we are working on this, as I say. If we can fill more than 1,000 this year and another 1,000 next year, we will be on 100% capacity. The implementation of Section 17G will assist us in retaining the personnel so that we are not losing them when they are chasing other positions elsewhere. The tools of trade is what we need to ensure that we get the proper equipment. In this regard, we are working closely with our TMS. The training, upskilling, and reskilling of the personnel is what we continue to do also on an international platform. Just citing an example of the nature of the matters that we are dealing with first is to look at the workload that we have, 23,000 of the matters that we deal with. If you look at the charges, the counts into these matters, you can now see that there is more than 100,000 charges, which means that each matter we may say we have got one docket, but inside that dockets, there are several charges that you have to work on. Looking on the example of cases, I just cited two examples. The one on the left-hand side has to deal with the organized criminal groupings, the gangs in the Western Cape. There you can see that in this grouping, there are more than 3,000 counts that the group shall have to face. Those 15 accused persons who are going on trial on the 5th of May are going to be facing more than 3,000 charges. It's like you are talking more than 3,000 dockets. The nature of the crimes that are being committed here, you can see it include a pattern of racketeering activity. That is what we generically call organized crime. So the prosecutors will have to be working with more than 30 act files of documents, which means that there is a lot of preparations that need to happen. So you can see the number of accused persons that we have secured in court at the bottom there, more than 11,000. We still need another 11,000 of these persons if all the investigation is completed and taken before court. On the right-hand side, we cite an example of a case in Durban where it involved the Durban solid waste. In this one, there are more than 2,000 charges. The 22 accused persons, which will be going for trial on the 20th of July, they face, among others, a pattern of racketeering activities. That is organized crime. There is a lot of more than 2,000 counts of money laundering. So we have been charging suspects with money laundering, as I have indicated, but it is the typologies that we shall have to be looking at to improve on those. So I thought that let me cite this so that we can familiarize ourselves with the nature of the cases of handled by the DPCI. The DPCI shall at all times enforce the law of the Republic without fear, favor, or prejudice, and as the circumstances of any particular case may require, in accordance with the Constitution and the law. I thank you.
Thank you very much, General Labia. That presentation was rather straightforward. Do you have any comments, National Commissioner?
Thanks, Honorable Chair. No comments. I think it is straightforward, as you say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, National Commissioner. General Labia, a very good presentation. That does not silence the members. Members, I am not silencing you. You may now indicate if you wish to ask questions or contribute. Honorable Tablanche, your hand is up.
Thank
And
you.
then Honorable Shembeni.
Chairperson, thank you. I also think it was a very good presentation. I want to commend General Labia on the presentation. However, I just want to get clarity on a few things. I recall that you mentioned that something will be forthcoming about the Zondo Commission, and I haven't received it yet, and therefore my question, the first question, there is a perception out in the public that not a lot of inroads are being made in the investigation of the Zondo Commission, the issues that were mentioned there, and I just want to comment from General Labia on that. Then, secondly, Chairperson, regarding the issue, the investigation, I just want to get clarity on that. The issue about the grabber, that whole saga about that, I just want to ask whether certain criminal cases have been reported to the Hawks and whether they are investigating that. And lastly, Chairperson, I know that General Labia touched on the PATA issue and, obviously what they do there. And I also heard that,
Sorry, Honorable Blanche, what did you say on which?
the FATA Chairperson, the grey listing part. The grey listing? Can you hear me? Chairperson, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Can I continue, Chairperson? Chairperson, I just want to know, he mentioned that, there is a capacity, they need to increase capacity. And my question is whether they will be able to, with the capacity building, we have a window period
Members,
of only
am I
2
the only
years.
one that's having problems with the
Chairperson, can you hear me?
We can hear him.
Members?
We can hear Honorable Terplanch. I think it's your line, Chair.
And it's me, eh? Honorable Whoop, can you help me because I'm struggling? On the Zondo report, Parliament's implementation plan to give effect to the recommendations in the report of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture. That plan was tabled on the 31st of January. If you haven't read the ATC, it was tabled on the 21st of January. So if you missed it, Nicolette, can you send them that ATC again, please? Nicolette emailed it yesterday. Email it to all the members, please. It means you missed the ATC. So today we're having a meeting with the House Chair on the matters, on the implementation plan. And then on the grabber, we will get the report from the Justice Committee on this matter. So on those two, those are matters which are being attended to by the chair. Honorable Whoop, can I hand over to you because I'm just Honorable Whoop. Honorable Whoop, can you assist me, please?
You are muted, Chair.
I'm not muted. I can't hear.
No, but we can hear you now.
Did you hear my connectivity is very, very bad. I've just repeat the matter of the Zondo was tabled on in the ATC on the 31st of January. It's my connection matter of the Zondo, and we're dealing with that with the chair of chair now at 1 o'clock. Okay, and then the matter of the grabber, we are dealing with that with the Justice Committee. So on those two matters, the DPCI doesn't have to respond. So I'm again requesting Honorable De Blanche, if I couldn't hear and my connectivity is just not with me today. Honorable Whip, again, could you assist me, please? So Honorable De Blanche, it's not your problem, it's my problem. Honorable Whip, if you heard Honorable De Blanche, can you continue? And then Benny is next. Honorable De Blanche, are you done or are you still, do you still?
Chairperson, it's only my last question. I was still busy with that. If you can just allow me there.
Yes, you could. Sorry, De Blanche, I couldn't hear.
Thank you, Chairperson. No, I know that General De Beer gave us, quite a presentation on the FATF issue, also the grey listing part. And I am aware that that is a part of the capacity problem on their side. And therefore, my question is, will they be able to build this capacity to enable them to comply with the concerns of the FATF within the 2-year window period that we have? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable De Blanche. Honorable De Blanche, the matter of the grabber was also tabled in the National Assembly yesterday. Did you get that?
Chairperson, I got that. It's the issue of the grabber is, I'm saying, and I've been saying this for quite some time, there are serious allegations of criminal activity. And obviously that is something that will have to be investigated by the Hawks. And my question is, are they investigating anything? And if not, why not?
Thank you very much, Honorable De Blanche. Honorable Shembeni.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Thanks for the presentation of the DPCI. I've got a few questions, what I once asked Lieutenant General Libya about the municipalities. There are some forensic reports on municipalities whereby the officials are sitting on top of these reports. And then there are a lot of allegations of corruption. Now, I want to find out how are they going to get these reports, because some officials are being removed or replaced in other places. Some, their term gets to an end in such a way that now they are going out scot-free. The reports are there. What is the so-called now the DPCI doing to get these reports? Is there no other ways or manner to get out or demand those reports in all the municipalities? Meaning the reports from the COVID-19 scandals, Chairperson. Number two, the 54% capacity of the DPCI. 689 members, they say they left the DPCI. It's a very big number. What are the reasons that are causing those DPCI members to leave. I understand you are talking about the implementation of Section 17G, but what is the main problem that makes these members leave? And are these members protected? And how are they protected? I mean, from political interference, political killings, and the like. How are these members protected? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Shembeni, Honorable Whoop, Honorable Siabi. Honorable Whoop. I am apologizing. I'm really struggling. Can you hear me now?
I can hear
Yes,
you,
we can
Chair.
hear you, Chair.
I'm so sorry that I'm doing this. I'm being kicked in and out. So those members, you understand the frustration of network. So I've been having I've been having load shedding since 8 o'clock this morning, and it seems now as if my mobile hotspot is also running away. Honorable Whoop, could you come in now, please?
Chairperson, thanks very much. My apologies. It seems I had a problem of disruption of connection.
No problem, Whoop. No problem, Whoop. We're all sitting with those challenges. You may continue.
Let me welcome the presentation. And indeed, it is a well-informed presentation. But what I wanted to check quickly, Chair, is the presentation briefs us about the load of work. But there's also a view that not much is going into, I don't know whether it's investigation that is done by the Hawks. For example, there was a case that was dismissed in Free State. I think it's a corruption case. There are cases in Limpopo of people who were murdered. I don't want to get into details, but the public out there, when these people are released, and the magistrate or the judge says not enough work has gone into this thing. So you'll spend resources doing the investigation and so on and so on. But later, the judge or the magistrate says not a lot of work. I'm not necessarily blaming the Hawks, but maybe an explanation can be given. What is the problem? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Whoop and members. Honorable members, I'm not rushing this TPCI presentation. We have until 1 o'clock to deal with this presentation. And if we go up until 1 o'clock, apologies, can we then do the IPID? Can we then do the IPID presentation next week or on Friday? Next week, Wednesday, can we do PSIRA? Next week, Wednesday, with the unions? Or Friday with IPID? So if I'm running out of time, PSIRA, you will do your presentation on Wednesday when we do the unions, or Friday when we do IPID. So just bear that in mind. So can we then, PSIRA, can you prepare then, if we don't finish, can you prepare for next week, Wednesday or Friday? Understood, PSIRA? Understood, members? If we don't finish on time, PSIRA, we need to give them sufficient time as well. DPCI, you have until 1 o'clock. So there'll be another round of questions if members are not happy. I know that this is a crucial area of our responsibility and our oversight functions. We have until 1 o'clock for this. Understood, members? Accepted and understood?
Chairperson, may I ask which Friday are you referring to?
Next week, Wednesday, and then I think we're also sitting Friday with IPID. And am I correct, Nicolette?
Yes, Chair, you are correct.
Next week, Friday, we're sitting with IPID's budget.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm correct on that. Next week, Wednesday, we're doing the unions. So PSIRA will either come with the unions or Friday with IPID. Accepted, Mr. Chowke?
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for that, but I don't want to rush the DPCI. You may now respond, General Labia.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and honorable members. I will be responding to the questions, starting with those that have been raised by the Honorable Terblanche. I have noted that the chairperson requested that I do not deal with the matters of Zondo and the Grabber. But safe to say that in the matters of Zondo, we have 15 investigators that we have assigned to work with the ID, to assist the ID. We also have got 20 members separately that are dealing with matters that are sitting with the DPCI. I will not elaborate any further, as the chairperson have indicated. On the matter of Grabber, I will not respond. It is also not clear which one is that one. Coming to the question of the FATF, the gray listing, and the capacity that if we build, we will be able within a period of 2 years to be able to get out of the gray listing. All what I can indicate is that we already have the individuals that are working in this environment. What we need to be doing is to increase the capacity. Those that are working on other matters already understand what is expected of them. It's just to increase the capacity and the focus. So if we can add the numbers from those that we are having, we believe that 2 years is sufficient to be able to address the concerns that the FATF body have raised. So that we believe that 2 years in the period that we are expected to deal with the issues raised in the gray listing, we will be able to do that, Honorable Chairperson. Coming to the questions of Honorable Shembeni, starting with the matters that are forensic reports that are available in the municipalities, I think those obviously become governance issues. If the municipalities, if no one reports to us, we will not be able to know that there are issues sitting at specific municipalities. I think there is a need to encourage
Recording
those
stopped.
who know about these reports where there are alleged criminal activities to report to the police. There is also an obligation on officials working in some of these
Recording in progress.
that where there is a suspicion of corruption or theft involving an amount of 100,000 or above, there is an obligation to report on these matters. So we expect that all of us as South Africans, we should be able to encourage those who know about possible criminal activities to report. So those include the matters that would obviously be affecting COVID-19 resources that the government has provided. As the honorable members may know, we are at the Fusion Center working with other departments, which is situated at the Financial Intelligence Center, continuously deal with those matters. We have arrested more than 100 individuals that are sitting in court, and we continue to deal with those matters. So the plea is that those who know need to encourage the reporting of these matters. On our own, we might not be able to pick it up that certain municipalities need to be visited in order to get these matters investigated. On the second question of the members from the DPCI who are leaving the DPCI and the reason for such departure, and the question as to whether the members are protected, I need to be responding as follows. There are various reasons why the members are leaving. Some of them have reached a retirement age